Hey there, Z Nation fans! Welcome back to another episode of the Z Nation After Show here on AfterBuzz TV. Tonight we are talking about Season 5, Episode 5, Killing All the Books. We're going to be breaking down tonight's episode, and also we have a very, very special guest calling in, so stay tuned.
You're tuned in to AfterBuzz TV, the ESPN of TV talk. Now, let the buzz begin.
Makes me that much stronger, makes me work a little bit harder, makes me
Definitely on point, Michelle. Definitely on point.
I dedicate this to Addie.
It's so good to see. We didn't see her in this episode, but it's just so good.
But let's be real.
For all I know, that wasn't her. That was a stand-in, but it was Addie. It was.
And also,
I mean, it's kind of iconic.
Yes.
it's a symbol of hope, probably.
Maybe.
I just want to know, how does it feel to be right?
Feels so good.
Vindicated?
Yes.
How did we not start with Vindicated?
Because Vindicated is a completely different song with a completely different context.
This is true.
Anyway, hey there, Z Nation fans! Welcome back to the Z Nation After Show. We are going to be breaking down tonight's episode, talking about 10K and his sort of spy mission, Doc and the Exploding Z, and of course, talking all about George trying to deal with the new reality in terms of Pacifica in a post-terrorist attack. So we also have a very, very special guest who's called in, but first let me introduce my fantastic panel. To my left, Michelle Cullen.
Hello, everyone.
To her left, Katie Cullen.
Hi, all my buddies.
And I'm Megan Salinas. We are going to be keeping an eye on the hashtag ABTVZNation. Katie's also got you guys covered on the live chat. And so joining us via phone is the director of Killing All the Books, Mr. Juan Mas. How are you doing tonight, Juan?
Well, very good. How is everyone?
Good.
Doing all right.
Yeah.
Doing pretty good, all things considered. So how does it feel now that the episode has aired and that it's out there?
Great. Obviously, we had a bunch of the. I live in Spokane, where I actually get shot. So a bunch of the crew and a couple of the local cast, we all got together at a bar and had drinks and watched it, and it was exciting.
That's really fun. I like that.
Yeah, me too. So yeah, let's go ahead and get into it with tonight's episode. Ladies, initial thoughts on the episode?
This was a rough one to watch.
Yeah.
Really, really good. Really, really difficult.
It was interesting. The whole tone of the season is different because in a way this felt like a filler episode because it's building up to something, but it was still substantial in its own story and had its own emotional traumatic points within it. So it's well done. I loved it.
Yeah, Juan, do you want to talk a little bit about the emotional impact you guys were going for with this episode?
God, thank you so much for what you guys already said. Yeah, we were. Katie O'Brien and I and Kalita, we talked a lot about that because it was kind of like their little story and her arc and what's going on there, but at the same time, 10K, again, on his own, wandering off and then finding himself on a mission without even realizing. So it was kind of interesting. We talked about it, and especially with Red and Nat, Natalie and Nat talking about that scene where they're, where he can't shoot, he's lost his power, and how does someone who loves get them to get over themselves without, kicking them, too hard in the ass. But it was good.
I mean, and sometimes people do need a good kick in the ass. you do. You can give them all the compassion in the world, but if that doesn't work, sometimes they really do need a good kick to be like, get going.
Or they need
Pity party is over. Lights have come on. Everyone's getting kicked out of the bar. Go.
Or occasionally they need a tumbleweed of zombies just tossed their way.
That's a good motivational push.
I feel like a kick in the ass is slightly less deadly. But yeah.
Well, before we dig too deep into the episode, we have a quick announcement for you guys.
Do we always? Hey, AfterBuzzers! Our network produces after shows for nearly all your favorite TV shows. From dramas, reality TV, sci-fi, and more, there is no network that works harder to serve television fans. But we need your help. We're asking that you please subscribe to one or more of our YouTube channels. By subscribing to our channels, YouTube will suggest content that's tailor-made for you, and you'll help AfterBuzz continue to grow. And if you're worried about pesky notifications, don't be, because they're optional. However, they do tell you exactly when we go live. So, hit that subscribe button now for this channel and check out our other AfterBuzz TV YouTube channels as well. Let us know you did so in the comments and we'll thank you on air. For now, thanks for being the best fans and for helping us be the ESPN of TV talk.
Yeah, there are a lot of fun channels here on the AfterBuzz, website. The animation channel is definitely one I highly recommend checking out.
Namely because we live there.
A little bit. But yeah, guys, let's get back to the episode. Juan, I just want to know, what was your favorite part of this episode?
Oof, that's a hard one. God, that's really tough because I would say straight out the fight sequence between Warren and O'Brien in the book room was fun, in particular because we had an opportunity to choreograph it, and I already knew the kind of tempo type of music we wanted to play with, so we actually choreographed it a lot with the music as well. But then the scene when O'Brien, when George has to do her friend, and just the performance the two ladies brought in was just phenomenal there. But come on, who couldn't be excited at the end when we saw the Z-Whacker just coming over the...
Yeah.
Yep.
It's hard to argue with that. Michelle, was that your favorite moment?
My favorite moment was the Z-Whacker, and my second favorite moment was Citizen Z and Kaya and just searching for Nana and Jay-Z, and just that family bond and the teamwork that they have and how well they work together as actors and on screen as a couple. I love it.
And also knowing how Nana thinks and knowing where she would go.
Nana likes to find the closets.
Nana likes to hide her stash. Yeah, my favorite was the part towards the end where they're all trying to rebuild the library, where it's this is the Odyssey. This looks like classical literature. It's over there. Here's 3 more leaves for the tree. We're rebuilding the tree. Just that was the part where I went, yep, I'm done.
I do
just
love that
completely emotionally wrecked right there.
Yeah.
So good.
Well done, Juan.
Yeah.
You emotionally wrecked us.
Well, it isn't just me. It's also Jen Derrenter, who's a great writer, and I've done a couple of her scripts and love working with her stuff. And she's so collaborative that, we can bring back ideas and we bounce off before we actually start shooting. So it's actually, it's a collaborative team with the actors and the writers, and of course Carl Schaefer, who is, the Godfather, who's like watching over us, making sure we're doing all right.
Yeah, we've talking about that, kind of going off of that. Season 5, it's, as you alluded to, Michelle, has been a very different sort of tone than previous seasons. Like, the series has never been afraid of being dark, but it also has always had this underlying sense of humor. And we've had that underlying sense of humor, still present this season. But there's also a little bit more of a kind of a different type of darkness that's overshadowing everything. Was it difficult to try to approach that difference in tone, or is it just kind of just same sort of thing that you guys have been going for the last couple of seasons, but just tweaked a little bit?
I think the tweak is probably the right word. It's because there are moments, obviously in 5, which we do go pretty dark, but then the lighter moments have become lighter because of that. So that the balance was really good, and I really enjoyed it. And then adding the Z-bomb, and come on, who can't laugh every time you see this ball of zombies just rolling down the road, right? It just adds to there's the horror this poor young kid is going through. So I thought it was just really well balanced that way because of having be able to go dark as we went, but those lighter moments came at the right time.
Yeah, I concur with that assessment. Like, in the same episode, we have this very heartfelt moment in which George has to kill her friend, and it's this wonderfully emotional scene. And then we cut to 10K, where there's a tumbleweed of zombies coming towards him, and it's one of those things where I had completely forgotten that tumbleweeds were a thing until it happened, and it made me laugh that much harder.
Just one of those moments of, oh yeah, oh no.
And I would even take it to something that's just, it's constant throughout the episode in terms of concept of the bombers are zombies. They're walking bombs. And that's a terrifying thought. And you see the destruction. And then you see Doc dealing with one. And it just, the monologue that he has with himself of how am I going to do this? Okay, this is ridiculous. And just going, and it adds that comic relief to a very dire situation.
And that moment of how to defuse a bomb 101, just that book being on the shelf.
Pacifica coming through with the books.
Yeah.
Yeah, that actually was kind of the prop guys and I were talking about it, and we were discussing how Doc's following the zombie, who by the way is my 17-year-old son played that zombie.
What?
That's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, he owed me some money, so I told him he could work it off by bringing the zombie on the set for a couple days.
That is a great way to work that off.
Yep. I wish that had been an option for me when I was a kid. Like, I had to mow the lawn.
So, but we did come. We had like a whole series of book ideas that spined, and they pitched me a handful, and that was the one that was the cleanest and the quickest that you read, and you got the humor. And then Doc, Russell just plays it off so well. It's like, oh, look at the book, and then, oh shit, he's gone. And then he's off.
Yeah, Russell is a treasure.
Russell has been an MVP, not just of this season, but of the entire series.
Yes.
It would be a very different show without Doc present.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, kind of talking about that, creating sort of an atmosphere in the wake of an explosion is something we've seen actually a couple times this season now. So yeah, I wanted to ask a little bit about sort of creating that chaotic atmosphere to help build the tension. How did you guys go about doing that?
Well, first of all, our show's got a tight budget.
Yeah.
So pretty much that whole area where the library fight scene happens and Doc is chasing us, that's exactly the same room in a hallway over and over again.
What?
We built a bunch of the art director, Vince Felice, and I came up with the idea like, all right, build me a bunch of bookcases that are two-sided, or I can make them one-sided, burnt out books in them, and I can put them on casters so I can spin them around and just create subtle mazes. And then my DP, Peter Green, is like, I told him, look, here's what we got to work with. He goes, all right, great. Well, you make our main source be emergency lights. So that's why there's that whole concept, if you notice, you come from the kind of more brightly lit area and you're going into a darker space. And the idea was you're going into the center of where the explosion occurred. And likewise, Citizen Z is coming from another direction, trying to end up at the same space. But literally, it was probably a room that's probably, 30 by 40 with a long hallway and about 8 different bookcases with we had bins and bins of burned out books.
So you basically built a Doctor Who set.
We did. And
TV magic.
And it was changing, and the the on-set dresser and I had like a floor plan for depending on what scene it was. And everybody would get in there, move all the bookcases around, and reset it, smoke it up, and then the lights would move around just enough that you didn't feel you were in the same hallway.
That's amazing.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
TV magic.
it definitely, like, looking at the hallways that Citizen Z was walking down, I never would have guessed that it was the exact same set that Doc was running down.
No, that one was different. That hallway is a famous hallway for us because that's also the hallway where I shot Russell glowing in the dark and killing the zombie last season. If you remember, there was a glow in the dark.
Yeah.
That's that hallway. So that hallway is
Wow.
going to be used for like. That's why we sort of make it look at 2 different locations. We had one stretch of a hallway, which was all Kaya and Citizen Z, and then that other hallway in a small room for the library and everything else.
Wow. You guys are very, very versatile. I
Dang.
never would have guessed that all of these sets were just getting repurposed. That's fantastic.
Oh yeah, we have to be. So that way we have more time to do.
That's true. That's exceedingly true. Like, you guys are on such a harsh production schedule. I always like asking, particularly directors, what the most difficult part of any given episode was. And I was wondering, is the most difficult part the fire stunt that you guys did at the very top of this episode?
Actually not, to be honest. I mean, the stunt crew and the special effects crew, they're so top-notch. We've been working together for so long. A lot of stuff we do is shorthand, and we all know what to expect. There's a lot of great safety meetings and all that. But a strong AD department too that helps make sure that I've allocated. We sat down with Jared, my AD, and the effects guys, and go, okay, this is how much time we need to shoot that. So no matter where I'm at, Jared, you've got to kick my butt over there, and that's what he would do. Probably the funniest thing to me is the hardest day of this episode was basically the day we covered all the dialogue out in front of the library. Like the fight between the talkers and the non-talkers, and the show up of the military truck, all that stuff, because we had to shoot it backwards, and I also had to shoot it like staggering the cast in, because there was just not enough time to get everybody up and ready and running in the beginning of the day. So that was probably the hardest day for me, just have to wrap my head around it, where I got to shoot for a little bit one direction and then turn around, look another way, and then go back the other direction and go to the beginning of the day, or the beginning of the earlier in the episode. So that was probably the hardest part.
That's pretty wild.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could definitely see why it'd be hard to wrap your brain around that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, run to me sitting by myself in a little plate of food, just going, okay, where am I now?
What day is it? Kind of going off of that, since you were talking about Altura and we were talking about George a little bit, let's go ahead and start there, because I feel like a big part of the emotional crux of this episode focuses on George and her dilemma. And we see Warren very much still trying to mentor George and trying to steer her in the right direction and pushing her to make the tough choices. Even when, because I don't think George ever pictured that, zombie terrorism was ever a thing that was ever at any point in time in Numerica's future. So seeing a lot of her friends and, dying around her with no sort of means of being able to prevent them from turning, her first thought is maybe we should just let it happen and let nature take its course. And that's when Warren has to push her in a different direction. Do you guys kind of think that Warren is kind of passing the torch a little bit?
I do think she's passing the torch. I also think that it's harkening back to when she saved her in Black Summer, because George has just been building this since Black Summer, and Warren has seen some shit.
Yeah.
And it's very different how they've been surviving the past several years. Or 8 years? Are we at 8 years since the beginning? So 6 or 7 years from Black Summer, however long after that happened. But so she's been building a peaceful area for people to thrive, and talkers are a very new addition, and it's kind of Warren's fault. And it's kind of that thing of even though it's not directly their fault, our gang became involved and everything went to crap.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not like Zona wouldn't have figured out another way to do it had they not had our gang.
Yeah.
They were just convenient, and also the camera follows them. Yeah, I don't think she's necessarily... come on. I don't think she's necessarily passing the torch, but I do think she is training another leader. She's been through a lot of very, very difficult situations that George is only just starting to run into. And so being able to help her become a better leader is definitely in everyone's best interests. But I don't think Warren's getting ready to just peace out anytime soon.
What if she is, though? What if she dies?
Oh, no!
I don't think she's getting ready to die. The show might be getting ready for her to die. We never know. But I don't think she, as a character, is well, I've got till Tuesday, so let's get this done.
I just want to point out that Michelle's been right before.
I just got really worried.
You say that like I haven't.
Well,
Excuse.
Juan, we obviously you work with a bunch of talented actors. Did you get the chance to talk to Katie and Kalita sort of before they had this emotional heart-to-heart? Because they've had a few prior to this, yeah.
I don't know, we did. We went out to dinner a couple times together to talk about it and discuss it. I mean, you guys are amazing. You're pretty dead on pretty much everything we talked about. The big note that I gave Katie is this episode is where the idealist has to meet reality,
Oh.
you know,
Oh.
and it's a really hard moment to take that. And then you've got, you know, Kalita, who's been through so much, seen so much happen, and then in the first couple episodes, you're thinking, oh, she's finding some peace finally, and then she doesn't.
Oh.
It's just, she's just tired.
Mhm.
Yeah.
The woman is exhausted emotionally and physically, and she's tired. And there's something about this young character in George that inspires her to keep going. And that's kind of what we played around with. And I mean, Jen's lines were great and dead on, especially in that moment that you guys were just talking about, where she's, oh, let nature take its course, you know. And we talked about it several times, and Kalita did a couple little improvs a couple different times and just a couple lines. But it's just those two understanding that they need each other right now without really knowing it. Kalita needs George to keep going, and George needs to go to the next level because of what Warren would be pushing through. There's a moment where they're at the after she goes into the big room with all the books and all the papers are burned, and they have that little talk, and Kalita Warren gives her the little pep speech, and there's this poster that they're looking at, and the idea was what each of them were focusing on. The poster was different. George was looking at the on the divided we turn, and Warren's vision was looking at the silhouette that looked like George, knowing this is the future, and then that's what motivates them both to keep going on.
I just got goosebumps.
That's beautiful.
Good.
Kind of going off of that moment where, yeah, she's in the library and just all of those pages are singed on the ground. That's definitely my favorite shot of the whole episode. And that kind of ties into when Altura shows up. They have a seemingly different agenda when it comes to saving people. They're there to save people, not books. But it's not even so much that they, like, that saving books and the archives aren't a priority for them. They actually physically knock books out of people's hands like a grade school bully. And at the time of this recording, we are doing it on the eve of the midterm elections for 2018.
Please vote.
Please
Please
vote.
vote. Please vote.
Please
Don't be.
Please.
Please vote.
Altura looks like it's becoming a fascist state. Don't be Altura.
So, yeah, that was kind of what I was going to ask was this season is definitely seemingly more politically charged. And we get that great line from George, you know, the truth doesn't matter. What matters is what people believe. And that hit me really, really hard. So, yeah, when you guys were in the middle of production, did you guys have the current political climate in mind, especially when it comes to, you know, this episode is airing right before the midterm elections?
I don't think we realized it was going to air right before the election, but I do know, having sat in the writers' room, the writers definitely do. And there's a lot of, and Carl, I mean, since season one, Carl's always clipped in what's going on in our world politically into the show, just a little flavor of it to make you think about it. And I think the entire writing staff is in the same place. So definitely, yes, that was something in mind, the direction of things, how things are going. And also, I think on set, there was such a good moment when we were figuring out how to stage that, because that's the day I shoot the thing half and half. But figuring out how to make that guy just even more
Of a dick.
I mean, he's a great performer. I mean, yeah, even more of a dick than he was. But my favorite line is like when he goes, "What, turn?" I just love the way he delivered that every time. But when I'm like, I want to choose the background person to go, and I just picked like the most meekest person. I'm like, that's what it's got to be, so that it carries that punch a little bit even further, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it definitely, that's what, it is definitely a flavor that we put into the show. I think the cast does, I think the crew does, and definitely the writers.
Yeah.
It was. I love that moment just because on the one hand it's so funny, but at the same time it really does have this underlying
Menace.
awful truth to it because there's an old adage that people who forget the past are doomed to repeat it, and they make a big deal about how at Pacifica are the archives and wanting to preserve our past and the memory of generations lost during the apocalypse.
Well, and an educated populace is much, much harder to fool. They're harder to dominate. They're harder to rule, which is why usually when you're building a fascist regime, you go after the intellectuals. You go after the educated people. You try to discredit them. You try to remove them. Here, we're looking at the biggest repository of human knowledge in Numerica. It makes sense if you are trying to rule these people because I'm like 90% certain that that's what's going on here. That's my little pet theory, and I'm sticking that to the wall and waiting to see what happens. But you destroy the knowledge base. You refuse to bring it back to the one safe place that there supposedly is. Like, yeah, you're making these people a lot easier to boss around because they don't have that knowledge base.
Yeah, and not to make it too real, but we are sadly in an age of anti-intellectualism.
We are.
And
it sucks.
That's why we're at where we're at. So yeah, please go vote tomorrow.
How do you feel, Megan?
Real unsafe.
You got really high. You got high there.
I feel like everyone should vote. That's how I feel. Please vote. Please vote. Please vote.
Michelle?
I think this episode in particular, and really this season so far, is just showcasing the difference between human and humanity and showing that the humans don't have humanity, and just that dichotomy of like, yeah, he's alive, he's human, he knocked the books out of our hand, but then who's rebuilding it? The people who died and turned and were able to eat biscuits, the talkers, are preserving the history and rebuilding and just moving forward and showing kindness where really it shouldn't be shown after a certain point. But they want to build toward that better future. And really it's because they have a bigger stake in it. Like it reflects society so well right now.
You just hit the nail on the head there. Dang.
Yeah, and that's really, if you look at all our seasons, and this goes to our godfather Carl, that is a message that's constantly there, that just because we're human doesn't mean that we have humanity. And I remember talking to him, because I did the Native American episode back in episode, what was that, season 2?
I love that.
With the big waterfall, the waterfall of zombies going into the Grand Canyon.
Yeah.
And we talked about, he and I talked about it specifically saying, it's not about the types of people on our show. It's how that cluster of humanity is trying to figure out how to survive the apocalypse. And what decisions do they make that makes them better people or worse people? And that's, once he told me that, I mean, to me, anything that he throws in front of me, now I know where he's coming from with it. Because even in that episode, I remember Keith and I had long talks with Kalita about how Murphy felt of the inhumanity of us sending all these zombies off the edge of the cliff. Yes, it was a good thing, but there's an inhumane quality aspect to it as well. And I think it carries over to this episode with the talkers, and especially with the professor, who's like, he knows the cookies are done. He's probably going to turn real soon, but their priority is going to be to keep knowledge available.
Yeah,
Which is hard.
With the limited amount of time they have left, yeah, it really does bring out the best in them, because they're like, hey, we only have so much time. We need to make the most of it while we still can. And yeah, this show has always, zombie media in general likes to toy around with the idea, but this show in particular, with the inclusion of Murphy, has definitely loved toying around with the theme of what it means to be human. Yeah. We've been seeing a lot of that, and I feel like that hits the nail on the head for sure this season. season.
Oh, yeah.
Before we switch gears real quick, I want to talk to you guys really quickly about iTunes. Folks, thank you so much to everybody who's gone to iTunes to rate, subscribe, leave a comment. We love hearing from you. And it's the best way to let our producers know that you guys like the show that we're putting on. So if you haven't already done so, go to iTunes, rate, all that fun stuff. 5 stars would be preferable. And we will give you we like giving shout outs to people on the show who do it. Just like Jimmy Joe Jangles, who wrote, "Brava! These gals do a great job. They get good guests and sometimes don't get how good they are." I love the insight which they bring. They love that we got DC Douglas on a couple seasons back. So
Oh, that was a night. I
sure
love
was.
him. He's great.
DC Douglas was fantastic, and we love Wesker. Anyway, so yeah, thank you guys to everybody who's done that. We love that we have an international audience. So if you guys are part of that international audience, please leave a comment and take a screen cap of it and put in the hashtag APTVZNation so you guys can get your shout out too. So thank you guys so much to everybody who's already done that. And we love the comments on YouTube too. You guys are on fire this season.
I love reading those.
Yeah, y'all are the best. So thank you guys again. Yeah, let's talk a little bit about 10K. Yeah, I don't want to switch gears too much because but I really do want to dig into sort of the crux of his struggle, because he's lost a big part of his identity with the loss of his hand, and he's still struggling to adjust to that.
I mean, if you actually think about it, he's lost more than a big part. His 10K is based on the idea that he's going to kill 10,000 zombies.
Yeah.
And right now he's unable to. So his sense of existence has always been him being able to shoot that gun, and now he can't. And it was done by somebody who cares for him to save him.
Yeah.
You know, and that was kind of like what we talked about with Natalie and Nat together. It's like, you know, you did this. You saved him, but you did this, you know, and you put him in this place. And that's why she's dragging him out there to try to get him to practice. And to be honest, the line, which is "you should try your other hand," didn't come up until in post, and it was a suggestion by my editor Greg, who was a phenomenal editor on this episode. He recommended we bring her in and do an ADR and have her make that suggestion. I'm like, dude, that's brilliant. And he's still like, you know, like a typical guy. He's all like, and I'm gonna go look somewhere, and that's what he does.
Yeah.
And then she makes him a trigger finger, kind of.
Kind of.
Kind of.
Well,
that thing, yeah.
That's as good as it gets.
I
We're in
really-
the apocalypse.
I really appreciate though that not knowing that line was an ADR edition, like his performance really matches it though in terms of like frustration of like, yeah, sure, let me just use my other hand.
Yeah, and I think that's where Greg read into it, and he goes, I think it's a better one because we didn't really have one. He just kind of walked away, and that line just kind of made the scene go better, you know, and the frustration with this hook thing, this wire thing, and also the reality is that he's in pain. He's in constant pain from it because the infection and stuff.
It's not
right?
healing
So
property. That's bad.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then the Nat and I talked about it because it's like, again, I've always been the one who, because I also do the set unit directing stuff for the show, the whole show, and I'm the one who always gets Nat when he's going to run out in the woods forever. I'm the one who did the wolf episode. So
That's right.
I get to there, and he's all like, how many miles am I going to have to run this time? I said, I don't know. We'll figure it out as we go.
Assume at least 5, and we'll go from there.
Oh,
Yeah.
no.
Just one more Nat. I swear to God, last one. I swear it. But no, he's a trooper, and we laugh about the fact that it's like, if he's got to run, I get him. And he goes out in the woods with me, and we spend a couple of days running around with my camera guy and getting all that stuff. But we talked about the fact that he is not given up yet fully. And that's kind of what we were trying to play with about all those times that he stopped to shoot, you know? But he's like, all right, no, I'm going to try it again. You know? And then him just falling upon this stuff. So he ended up falling upon this mission without really knowing what's going on and just kept making decisions that just were turning out to not be the best decision. Oh, let me just jump into this truck. Here comes the ball of zombies. Let me use my hook and hold myself up so they can't eat me. Oh, my hook gets stuck.
Oh no.
You know, it's like every decision he's making is just like, oh. So that's one of my favorite shots of him is when he looks at the zombie rolling away, turns around and sees the trucks going away. He's like, ah, fuck, I'm just going to walk. And he starts to walk.
I feel like that is the 10K thought process. Just like, okay. A little bit of Eeyore up in there. Just like, oh my God.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, I felt bad for him by the end because he's just like out there in the middle of nowhere. Nobody knows where he's at because he just wandered off into the woods.
But that's kind of what he needs right now.
Yeah.
I think he's going to learn how to shoot left-handed.
Or he might die.
I don't think he'll die.
I mean, it's the zombie apocalypse. There is always the possibility
Did that
that
sound
someone is
confident?
going to kick it.
That
And then at
was-
one point, earlier in the chat, Sierra said, this week's episode is episode 6. We always lose someone in episode 6. I'm like,
really
oh,
upsetting.
pattern
I just
recognition.
really appreciated that was a visual, for me, that was a visual representation of glass half full, glass completely empty.
I don't think he'll die.
I just kind of walk into every episode assuming that someone is going to be horribly murdered, and if they're not, it's a pleasant surprise. You know?
That's a fair assessment. Kind of on a lighter note, I want to switch gears again. Michelle, you said one of your favorite moments about this episode was just seeing the dynamic between Citizen Z and Kaya as they're searching for their son.
I love Ramona so much.
She's so great. They're all so great.
They're delightful. I'm so happy they got paired up as a couple within the show.
And at this point, like all of them, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, and they work so well together.
They do.
And they talk about it, and then they play off of each other, and then it's just so easy to direct them. It's like, all right, here's what we're thinking about, and then they kind of play. I'm like, oh, I like where that's going. Let's move that. Let's go do that. You know. So it's just such a wonderful team to have the two of them together.
Yeah, they are absolutely a delight. And yeah, I think another really big highlight for me was Ramona saying, like, they're not going to eat my baby.
Like, yes.
The only thing I'm sort of disappointed about is I was just getting used to the idea of, you know, Citizen Z and Kaya getting to play off of the rest of our team because they've been isolated for so long, and getting to see all of them together this season has been such a treat. And now they're separated again because Warren needs some insiders over at Altura.
Look, it's not Z Nation if we don't split the party.
Plus, that means that Estes and Pandora are going to come back into the mix in a way where they're spied on.
I like the way you I like the way you think.
Creepy Pandora
God.
opening her box.
Oh, I am legit terrified of that woman.
She is scary.
So Lydia has to come on, is what I'm hearing.
You say that like I'm not working on it.
No, she is beautiful. She's a wonderful human being until she puts the mask on, and then she gets really, really creepy and weird.
I think that's awesome.
So, in character.
To be fair, if I had a mask on half my face, I think I'd get a little weird too. Like I would totally lean into it.
I would Phantom of the Opera it up a little bit for sure.
Oh, yeah. Who wouldn't?
So another thing I really want to touch on is, of course, Michelle made a stellar prediction last season last season. It feels like a million years ago.
It's been a million years.
It's been one
last week that
Since you
Addie,
looked at me?
that the symbol that we've been seeing, where it was the sun with 3 rays, was actually
The Z-Whacker.
was actually the Z-Whacker, and that it meant Addie was coming back soon. And sure enough, we get an excellent shot of the Z-Whacker going through a field of wheat. Now,
That was beautiful.
yeah,
Oh, yeah.
kudos, Juan. That was such a fantastic shot.
Well, listen, I'm a huge fan of Anastasia, and so glad to have her come back. And when I got to know that I was going to be the one that was going to introduce it, originally that was the only shot that existed, just at the end of the Z-Whacker going down in the woods. I'm like, no, we got to make this like the gladiator shot, you know, with the hand over the wheat field and the sun hitting the right spot. And then I reached out to Colin and said, can I sprinkle it more times throughout the show, hinting that something somebody's behind the spray paint can so that we can really capture a lot. And he loved the idea. So that's why we have all those shots of the spray paint, just filling up the frame. And then when you see those boots walking through, I don't know which fan did not realize that's Addie coming back.
Yeah. Oh, it's so good.
And the iconic leather jacket.
Yeah, exactly. And then having all that coming into, and it was funny because Anastasia wasn't up here yet. So she's done with a double. And I kept saying, I just gave you the best entrance ever, sister. Wait till you see it.
It was a stand-in, and I'm not mad at all.
No,
it's breathtaking.
Fabulous. So we are running a little short on time. Juan, is there anything else about this episode that you want the fans to know?
No. I mean, I'm glad people enjoyed it. I'm glad everything you guys said is spot on. It is, you were right in the sense where it is kind of a filler episode, but it's the one that is now re-spreading everybody out so that we can go for another handful of episodes and people on adventures. So I'm the one that launched everybody to an adventure is how I see it.
It's a transitional episode.
Yeah, I didn't
think of it as filler at all.
No.
But again, we can't thank you enough. Do you have any other projects that you have coming up that you can let people know about? I know NDAs make it tough sometimes. Do you have anything you want to plug?
No, not really. I got a small in personal project that we're doing here in Spokane. We did a 360 VR shoot with dancers, and it's an Alice in Wonderland storyline where we're going to be premiering it in Spokane on December 7th, and then hopefully go and send it through festivals. That's about it. Nice. It's called Tempest.
That's really
sounds
exciting.
Pretty great. Give us the name one more time.
Tempest.
Okay,
I love it.
Keep an eye out for that.
So yeah, where can people go if they want to keep up with you and your upcoming projects?
Right now, probably the best place will be Purple Crayon Pictures. That's my little company because I love the fact that I can keep drawing pictures off the paper. And that's our website, purplecrayonpictures.com.
Well, thank you so much again, Juan, for joining us tonight. We really, really appreciate it. And thank you so much for putting together such a great episode.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, ladies, for making it so much fun. You guys are a hoot.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. We'll have a wonderful night, Juan. We really appreciate you. Thank you so much.
All right. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye. Oh, he's a hoot, too.
Oh, yeah. And a holler.
Yes, this was a hoot and a holler. So, yes, as we said, we are running short on time, so sadly no predictions again this week, unless you want to get them in your outros. Katie, where can people go if they want to keep up with you?
I think things are going to happen next week. You can follow me all over the social medias, as well as on YouTube and Twitch at Kiaxet. That is Kiaxet. I also live on Rooster Teeth Reviews on the Animation Channel on Wednesdays, and guys, Ruby is back. We're starting that this week.
Woot woot.
You can find me on Twitter at Michelle_Cullen.
And I'm Megan. You guys can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at TheMenguin. That's TheMenguin. I do a bunch of stuff here at AfterBuzz, but I also do a Lost retrospective podcast called No Love Lost. So check that out. New episode just dropped recently. So yeah, go get caught up. Thank you guys so much for watching. We will see you all next week.
Our founder, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and me, Maria Menounos, would like to thank you for tuning in to AfterBuzz TV. Remember, we're not just the first, we're the biggest in the world, and we're the only destination for all your favorite TV shows. Whatever you crave, we've got it. So go to AfterBuzzTV.com and check out our lineup. Buzz you later.
From executive producers Maria Menounos.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.